here with Duane Reichert. He's a 1991 inductee into the South Dakota Hall of Fame. He's also known as Dr. Ben Krazy. So, if you would, Duane, just tell us a little bit. Tell us your story.
I sure will. First, I'd like to thank everyone for having me here, and it's an honor to be in the South Dakota Hall of Fame. That's for sure. It's kind of a elite group, and I'm not so sure that I belong there.
Oh, you absolutely
I'll
belong
sure
in
take
it.
it. That's for sure.
You bet. You bet.
I grew up on a ranch in central Meade County, about 40 miles east of Sturgis and 35 north of New Underwood, kind of in the middle of nowhere. My dad raised sheep. We didn't even have cattle for some years. Went to a country school, started out with 2 of us kids, my cousin and I. Then it kind of grew. There were 5 kids. 5 kids and nobody in my class through the 8th grade. When I graduated 8th grade, I went to high school in Sturgis, had to board away from home, and that was quite a cultural change, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was quiet, I was shy, hated to get up in front of people, but when I was a senior, a friend and I decided we were going to be rodeo clowns. Well, I didn't come from a rodeo family. I broke horses and did all the ranch work, and even though we ran sheep, we ran them like cowboys. And,
sure.
And I broke a lot of horses, but when I got in front of those people, I liked it, and I liked taking bulls away from cowboys. I worked for as a bullfighter to start with, and also did comedy. Lucky, I worked rodeos around this area in 4 or 5 states for 4 or 5 years, and in the fall of '68, I joined the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and went from there. I've worked in 44 states and 4 Canadian provinces in my rodeo career.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. No, before we were talking a little bit about, and you're kind of explaining to me the difference between, the bull rider and being there for safety versus the comedian. Could you just kind of go through what that is a little bit so people understand?
I kind of forget sometimes. I've lived so long as a rodeo personality that I forget what the average person thinks. That rodeo bullfighter or cowboy protector, his job is to protect the cowboy for that 8 seconds in case the cowboy bucks off. Once that 8 seconds is over, his job to take the bull away from the cowboy so the cowboy doesn't, when he jumps off, doesn't get hurt. And sometimes a cowboy will hang up, his rope gets tangled in his hand, and it's the job of the bullfighter or bullfighters to protect him and to get him loose. Most of my early career, I worked as a single bullfighter. Now, at most rodeos, at professional rodeos, there has to be 2 bullfighters, and sometimes 3. I always worked comedy, but after I'd fought bulls for about 20 years, I started to slow down a little bit, and at some rodeos I'd work the barrel, and some I would be the bullfighter or a combination. Now the barrel man, he sits in a padded steel or aluminum barrel in front of the bucking chutes, and it's kind of a safety haven for cowboys to get behind or the bullfighter to get behind, and also he can work his comedy from that barrel. Now, during the rodeo performance, I always worked comedy, even when I was a bullfighter. I worked short comedy acts, and when I joined the pro rodeos, I put together Dr. Ben Krazy. It was a comedy ambulance that did a lot of things and was well received.
Well, a pretty amazing story for you. It's you describe yourself as a shy young man, and then to be out there in front of the audience. Tell me some of what you think is kind of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome as you went through something like that.
I went back to college, and I did it for several reasons. I thought if I got crippled being a bullfighter, I'd need something to back up with. Whether my dream was to become a rancher, which I ultimately did and still do, but I wanted something that I could fall back on. I got a degree in elementary education from Black Hills State University, but I never taught. That helped me immensely. I took speech courses just so I could be in front of people and learn. And I still am a little bit hesitant for a crowd, even though I've had my assembly program before thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, so you mentioned you've got the teaching degree, but you also do a lot of work with children. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, my rodeo career was great, and I did a lot of things. I opened the national finals, was selected as an opening act 3 times. I worked in Dodge National Circuit Finals, was selected for I think seven circuit finals, inducted into the Black Hills State University Hall of Fame, Casey Tibbs Hall of Fame. My horse was inducted also. But I think the greatest accomplishment that I did was my school program, or my assembly program, my youth program. I've visited, as I said, thousands and thousands of schools with about a 15 to 45 minute program where I do some short comedy, little acts with animals, have a half a dozen small animals, a rabbit and a rooster and a little dog and sometimes a goat and just a ferret, and but I use them as a tool to portray that you can do it, you can accomplish it. Right choices are the way to go. You can get through any adversity if you try hard enough.
Yeah, just an amazing story, and like you said, you've done rodeo, not just in South Dakota, not just the United States, but in Canada and elsewhere. Just amazing. What is probably the thing that you would say was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge, and we talked about it a little bit, was not in the arena, not being funny, not and though I'm not a really funny person. I'm not funny in person. I'm not that outgoing. But when I walk into the rodeo arena, it's a different story. It's kind of an alter ego. But my biggest challenge probably was that being able to meet people, to sell myself as what I could do, to learn to travel and be able to know how much to charge, how much you can get, how much you should get, because you've got to make money to do that. You've got to make a living, or most of a living, at it. And I guess that my biggest challenge was portraying myself for what I do.
So here you are. You're a young farm child, and you've come in, and now you're doing rodeo. Where did the ambulance come from? Tell me a little bit about the ambulance.
Oh, it's just something that we dreamed up. I hired a guy. I thought of what I wanted to do, and I'm not that mechanical. And I hired a guy in Rapid City to put it together. It was a Hillman Husky. Nobody will remember what a Hillman Husky was,
right.
but it was a little station wagon, and I made it into an ambulance that drove by itself and bounced up and down, and we had a big box. Had a big box in it where we performed an operation on a girl, cut her in two like a magician would, and it was it was a pretty complicated little operation that we did, and we had a small child in there in half a pair of clown pants with a red top. He ran across the arena. I shot him with a blank gun, and before that, and then after that, when I went back to my ambulance, it blew up, and all kinds of fireworks which would be highly illegal now.
Right,
I even used it probably illegal sawed-off shotgun to make some of the explosions, but it was a super act, that's for sure.
Wow, just the innovation and the thought that goes in there, just kind of amazing. Your story is just something that I think a lot of young people are out there saying, because I watch the rodeo. I've never rodeoed, but I watch it, and I really watch the clowns, and they to me they're just it's just amazing that somebody be out there, facing a bull and so forth. But you took it that extra step and went into the comedy side of that. And so, do all rodeos have the comedy aspect? Is that kind of a
Now, most of the cowboy protectors or bullfighters are strictly cowboy saviors,
okay?
or show off with what they can do with a bull. At that time, it was traditionally it was both, and I worked really hard at it. I went to every circus that I could. I watched stand-up comedians. When we were in Russia, I even went to the Russian circus.
Oh, really?
Just Russia as a trip, as a mission trip. But I think that anyone, no matter what they do, you can, not that you shouldn't get educated, but you need to keep your eyes open. You need to watch. You need to be innovative. You need to figure out some goals, set them, and try to achieve them. If you achieve that goal, work a little bit further. You can get higher up the ladder. And like I probably said, just don't take no for an answer, and don't be discouraged. If you want it bad enough, you probably can do it.
And still today, you're running, I believe you said, a 4,800
We have
acre range?
4,800 acres, yes. Right now, at the present time in late May, we're lambing.
Wow, and the weather's not being kind.
Not too, no.
But for that young person that's out there, I know we talked about this briefly outside, and you gave some good advice, but kind of just in a nutshell, what would you tell that young person out there, that young man that's growing up in Underwood, South Dakota, about how do you get to where you are?
Well, I think first is don't forego an education. I don't care if you go to a trade school. First, graduate high school. As far as I'm concerned, that's very important, and there's quite a lot of dropouts now.
Yeah.
Get an education. Like I said, I've got a degree in elementary education. It doesn't matter that much whether you use it in your field. There's all kinds of people that it might be a plumber and they almost have a PhD. It's
right.
What they like to do.
Yeah.
And when you do settle on something, enjoy it. Enjoy your work. Enjoy your work very much. I wouldn't be ranching at the age I am if I didn't really, really enjoy it.
Right. Well, good. Well, Duane, this has just been a fantastic time talking with you. And you've got a great story. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
I said my greatest accomplishment. My greatest accomplishment was probably marrying my wife, Claudette. 53 years, and she traveled with me as much as she could. She had a career of herself in education, but all summer long, and at least half of the rodeo, she went with me. She had to help me with my clown car, which she didn't enjoy, and she also was a whale of a night driver.
Yeah.
We had to drive many across the country. We went from Manitoba to Biloxi, Mississippi in a couple of days one time, and
yeah, I remember seeing that. I think I read in your notes that you'd logged 1 million miles.
Yes.
In the circuit. That's
well, 3 motorhomes and a couple of pickups before they had motorhomes, and we had wonderful animals. We had several good dog acts. We had Dr. Ben Krazy. After Dr. Ben Krazy, I moved to a horse named Silver Lady, and probably the next Dr. Ben Krazy, the most noted animal we had was Pony Baroni. He was a pony that walked on his hind legs and did comedy also. That was after my induction to the Hall of Fame. He opened the National Finals Rodeo one time, and as I said, was inducted into the Casey Tibbs Hall of Fame. So we've been blessed with animals and blessed with, I guess, accomplishments too.
How do you get a horse to walk on its hind legs like that?
Well, it's a lot of work, and a lot of repetition. It's just like learning a trade. Sometimes you might get bored and think as an apprentice that I know it all. Well, you never know it all, and a lot of times it's repetition over and over and over.
Well, good. I really enjoyed talking with you. I think your story is, like I mentioned, just amazing. I've always, fantasized about being a rodeo clown. Obviously, I'm a little bit old for it to get into it now, but and so I really appreciate your time, and thank you for the conversation today, Duane.
Yes, you bet. Thank you.
So
really enjoyed it.
It's been a great conversation with Duane Reichert. He's a 1991 inductee into South Dakota Hall of Fame, and has just an amazing story. And I think one of the things that you said is young people can be like Duane. You just got to believe in yourself. So thank you, Duane.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.